Well, we've got, anxious for these guys to get out and play this week on Thursday. We got a very difficult challenge ahead of us with, top 25 team in Central Florida, taking them on, and they returned some really good players from an undefeated season. You start with their quarterback, Mackenzie Milton, very, very good, and we played against them last year and control the ball and run the ball. Very good quarterback, and deserves all the recognition that he's getting heading into the season. Up front, Jordan Johnson, their all-conference center, leads that unit, and then Dedrick Snelson and Otis Anderson, and then Adrian Killings gives them skill guys that are very dangerous and people that you got to make sure that you do a good job of tackling and taking the proper angles on, because they are very talented. Defensively, they returned some really good players in their corners, Brandon Moore and Neville Clark. Pat Kaczynski in the middle is a really good player. And then the guy that kind of wrecks havoc up front for you is Tristan Hill. So again, we're going to have our hands full, and being a young team that we are, the big thing is for us just to make sure that we allow them to go out there and play as fast as they can, and there's not too much thinking going on, and for everybody to go out and execute as best they can and as quickly as they can, and understand that we're going to be, especially defensively, we're going to be a work in progress as we continue to move through the season, and we'll end up playing probably quite a lot of players, most especially defensively due to the youth and then the type of offenses that we play and the pace at which we play. So we're going to do as much as we can to get as many guys playing time as we can to help us with our depth as we start the season and then as we continue through the season.
What challenges in particular does the quarterback present?
Well, he's very, he's a really good thrower. He's got the ability to run, and then he's another guy that he can get back there in the pocket, and if things break down, he can take off and run with the ball. So you can do a really good job of covering people, and then all of a sudden, he finds a little seam and can take off, and which sometimes, makes it tough on a defense. And then plus also, he's able to carry the ball if they want to run his own reads, and very smart, very sharp in terms of knowing where to go with the ball.
You talk about the decision to play a lot of true freshmen on defense, especially Kevon Jones, and what he kind of did to come on. Well,
again, this is all just on paper. How it all translates to that, to me, it doesn't really matter. There's guys that are listed as starters, but there's going to be other guys that play. I think, those kids are all going to be work in progress. They're not even close to being the finished product. But, they bring a skill set that they've shown things that they can do. So, again, they're not in a position, and we're not in a position from a program standpoint to sit there and have them, redshirt. Those guys would probably not be the four guys, the guys that played just in 4 games and you can use a red shirt with. There's certain positions where, we're going to have to play freshmen, and they're going to be involved with special teams and do all those things, and they're not going to have a red shirt year. We do have some freshmen that we're considering, in that four game opportunity to play them in those, but to then be able to maintain that redshirt year. But a lot of these guys we're not going to be able to do that with just because of the nature of our roster.
Where do you think you made the most improvement since the end of last season? Is it your approach? Is it guys buying in? Where do you think you've improved?
Well, I think guys understand exactly what we're going to have to do in order to be able to go out and win each and every week. I think one thing is that they're starting to do all the little things better and understand how the little things are so very, very important if you want to have an opportunity to win at anything in life, whether it's football, whether it's life, whatever. And I think that's the biggest thing. And then the other thing I think is this. It's them starting to hold themselves more accountable, but then also getting to the point where they're holding each other more accountable. And any team that I've been around, or any organization that I've been around, the successful ones, that's what's happened. You had people within that organization who would hold themselves accountable because they had a lot of pride and they wanted to do what was right, but then they also had a lot of pride in that organization that they wanted it to become the best that it could be, and then they hold each other accountable. And when you get that, you know, then you have a chance. And that's one thing that we've done and we've improved upon immensely. And that's something that we still got to, you know, continue to work on. And if we continue to grow that, then, you know, we'll continue to get better, you know, each and every day, each and every week, each and every month, each and every year.
You have Xavier listed as the starting running back at this point. Kevin's back. Is that a clear starter backup, or are they both going to see a lot of time? Where is running back?
You got to play two running backs at this level. I mean, yeah, Xavier will be the first guy out there, but you know, Kevin's going to play. You know, that's what I said. You know, these things here, they don't mean much to me. You know, everybody on social media wants to see them and all those sort of things, but it's just it's a starting point. You know, but there's going to be guys that play, and you know, next week it could change. Or in the game it could change based on if somebody's doing something really good. You know, so to me it's just I think, like I said, I think everybody gets too wrapped up in these two games too much. But that's just me.
Do you find David Pindell making better decisions in the run game, especially when pass plays break down?
What's that?
Is he making better decisions now running the ball when pass plays break down?
I see David being a lot more comfortable. I see him being a lot more confident, a lot more comfortable with everything that's going on. And again, I think you can just see it when you talk to him and everything else. And you know, I think he gives us a little bit of a dynamic that is beneficial to our team. And like I said, we just want to make sure that he keeps getting more comfortable and keeps doing a good job of progressing.
Freddie, could you talk a little about Xavier, what you've liked though, you know, forget the 1-2 thing, but just what you liked out of Xavier running back so far?
Xavier's a guy that to me is well-rounded. You know, he's an every down back. You know, he can play first, second, and third downs. And again, he's one of those kids that, I don't want to say, you know, he's one of those kids that you really like because he gives you everything he's got all the time. And for a redshirt freshman, he's on our leadership council. He's a leader, but you talk about a young man who's very, very prideful, a young man that wants to be the best he can be, and he does it every day, and he has great effort, does all those things that you're looking for, and then when he goes out and he executes it, and again, he's still a guy who's learning, who's going to continue to get better and better, but he reminds me of, you know, some of those guys that we've had here before as running backs in terms of what we think he's capable of doing and, you know, what he can do on all downs, you know, not just the first and second down or just as a third down guy. To me, he's a every down guy.
What did Ian Swenson do that impressed you enough to put him in the mix for playing time with?
Who's that?
Ian Swenson.
Well, he didn't play for us last year before he got hurt. And then coming back, you just see, again, he's another guy that it's important to him. He can go out and execute the things that you want done. And, you know, I think that's the biggest thing for all these guys to understand is that you got to do your job. And the guys that, and I know people go, you know, oh, there he goes, he's saying do your job like everybody else. But that's the bottom line. You know, you have a job to do, and if you do it, now you got an opportunity to get on the field. Who wants to put somebody on the field that doesn't do their job? You know, you don't want to do that because it doesn't give you the best opportunity to win. And then you're not being true to your team, I think. And that's the one thing I think, you know, what we're going to end up starting to have is we have more competition. We're going to have guys fighting to get on the field. You might see guys only playing 35, 40 plays, 35 to 35 plays a game, because if we can develop that depth, we get guys that are fresher. That's what I'd love to be able to do. especially with some of the, what we have to face week in and week out with the tempo and all those sort of things. So the more that we can do that, the more competition we can have. But, Ian's one of those guys that comprehends things well and, he'll go out there and be able to do his job the way that we're going to ask him to do his job.
Some coaches kind of, I think, defer to the more experienced guys maybe, and if it's between a junior and a freshman, would lean toward the junior. It doesn't seem like you're really doing that. So why is that?
It's all based on what we've seen in practice. There are some guys today that their status might change after today, from what I've seen. All of a sudden, you get a little bit closer to game time, and that sphincter gets a little bit, tighter, and with some of these young kids. So, we're going to have to see how that, all plays out as the week goes on too, But the thing about it is, it's, the other thing is, if guys don't perform in practice as you lead up to the game, as a coach, it doesn't give you a whole lot of confidence going into the game, because if they're not doing the things on the practice field, and you saw it all week long, and now all of a sudden they go in the game and you see them do that same thing, and then you sit there and like I said, I'm old enough and experienced enough, and I'm not going to sit there and kick myself afterwards when I already saw it, So that's kind of the mindset that I think we're getting better at too, for these guys. And so the more the depth we can have, the better the better we're going to be.
Randy, with all the youth, do you have to kind of fight the urge to simplify, or do you put the onus on them to learn stuff as best they can and as quickly as they can?
No, Rich, we got to make sure we don't make it too difficult, because, and if you know if you can master those 6 to 8 techniques, you'll be able to play anything that we want to play. And I think that's the thing that you have to do. And that's what I've learned over the years, is that there's got to be a rhyme or reason to what you do. It can't be all this memorization and thinking and all that stuff. It has to be, okay, here's my technique, boom, and it has to be as simple as that. The biggest thing with young guys, a lot of times, defensively more so than anything else, is their eye discipline. They just, some of them just don't have that. They come and they get away with staring in the backfield and taking their eyes off. The guy goes to break and they look back at the ball, and then you get the double move. The eye discipline at this level and at the NFL level, and then also, understanding the formations, looking at a stance, whether you can eliminate, you can pretty much get it down to whether it's run or pass before they even snap the ball, and then based on formations and all that, you can probably narrow it down to 1 or 2 things you're going to see. So, that's probably the biggest thing, but eye discipline and recognition of certain things is always a tough thing for a lot of those young guys.
How do you, when obviously young guys make mistakes, how do you determine what's acceptable mistake and unacceptable mistakes they make?
To me, as long as somebody's going hard and giving everything they got, playing fast and playing physical, okay, and doing the things trying to do the things you're asking them to do, sometimes you're going to get beat, because they're not going to make every play. And hey, we used to say when I coached in the pros, those guys get paid too. So they're going to make some plays, but as long as you're going fast and you're trying to execute the technique and you're being physical and you're working to do the things, that's going to happen. You can correct that other stuff, but if they're not going hard, or if they're being hesitant and all those sort of things because they don't know and they haven't put in the time to really learn it, that's the stuff that really frustrates you. Or, after so many times you keep telling them, hey, you have this technique, and all this technique says you got this guy man-to-man except for a China or an under. So guess what? All of a sudden, when they're snapping the ball, I see it, my eye goes to him, and that's what I got to do. But now if you all of a sudden you're not doing that, and the guy runs by you, those are the things that you can't, it's hard to live with.
You mentioned Pat Jasinski, the linebacker for UCF, Randy. Who on your defense do you anticipate could turn out to be that kind of linchpin?
What's that?
Could turn out to be a linchpin for your defense, like Jasinski.
Which guy? I didn't hear who you said.
Pat Jasinski from UCF.
Well, again, it's most of the time. I mean, it's a middle linebacker, but again, I think we have some guys. I think Darian Beavers could be that guy. I think that Eli has a chance to be a guy like that for us. You know, KK's young. You know, as a freshman, you're not going to ask a guy like that to be that type of guy. Santana's a really smart and, you know, guy in terms of knowing things and understanding what we need to do and what people are trying to do. So, you know, right now, I don't think we have that kind of guy right now. I think our guys are young and trying to work to that. And, you know, as long as they continue to work, then they're going to be able to put themselves in that position. You know, Eli Thomas is a guy who hasn't played since high school because of all the knee surgeries. You know, so, you know, he's a guy, you know, there. I think, you know, Darian Beavers is a guy that has a lot of talent, and he's a guy that just has to continue to keep improving and keep pushing himself as much as he can. And if he does that, you know, Eddie Hahn's a guy that is really smart and understands things. And so again, I don't think we have a guy right now like that. You know, we'll hope to get to that level, but right now we're not there.
How long does it take when a true freshman comes in and you can kind of tell they have the mindset, temperament to play and make an impact early in the season?
They're all different. Each guy has his own different barometer for where they're going to be, and it's just certain things that you see. You know, and now, you know, one of the things that we have to do, some of the things that I saw today, you know, we as coaches are going to have to make sure that we try to massage some of these freshmen the best we can up until Thursday. Because like I said, you know, that thing's getting a little tight now. All of a sudden, you know, you're this many days away. Before, it wasn't as much, you know, during camp, you know, you're working long, but now all of a sudden these things start to creep in your mind. Oh man, we're going to play on Thursday night, and, you know, those sort of things. So we have to do a good job as coaches just to, hey, you know what you're doing, you've demonstrated it on the field, now do it. But I think each kid is his own thing, and it's just things that you see from a coaching standpoint. When you see those guys out there and how they react to certain situations, that leads you to believe that say, hey, you know, here's a guy that can play, and then also, you know, it's our own depth that dictates that too. You know, some guys might not be shouldn't be in a position where they might get as much playing time, but guess what? That's not the world we're in. We're in a world where we have to have all these freshmen, you know, in the secondary. And you take a look at the secondary, it's all sophomores, redshirt sophomores, redshirt freshmen, and freshmen. You know, awful young there.
Got time for a couple more?
On special-
Last year you had Beavers, you had Cam DeGeorge, and you had Vandermark playing early. Can you talk about the difference now that they've added, also have added 20, 30 pounds, and how they've embraced that part of it, and how much better they'll be with the extra bulk?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're a work in progress. You know, I mean, we're a work in progress, and all these kids, these young kids, are just going to continue to get better. And if they just do the things that we ask them to do, then I think we'll continue to see improvement out of them as the season goes on. And then it's the next season, the off season, because you're seeing it with those guys, you know, guys that you mentioned. And again, all these freshmen, you know, have to get bigger, have to get faster, have to get stronger. They're all there. They're no way the finished product. I like what they're doing, and I like the things that they can give us. But again, they're just going to continue to grow, and it's one of those things where we have to make sure that we keep it as concise and as simple, and to keep encouraging them. And for them, then their job is to make sure that they do it the way it's supposed to be done.
A lot of seasons you open with an FCS opponent, UConn has. Do you sense any different or better focus before this game going against a team that was unbeaten last year?
Well, I don't know if there's anybody else playing two top 25 teams to start the season, that's for sure. But no, I think there's been good focus, you know, and there's been, you know, a sense of urgency. They understand what we have in front of us, and they're ready to meet the challenge. Now, what we got to do is get everything in order to go out there and play to the best of our ability on Thursday night and see what happens. Go from there.
On special teams, there's the new kickoff rule with the fair catch inside the 25 and automatic touchback. Does that change your approach on kickoffs, and what are your thoughts on the rule?
Yeah, there's some strategy involved with that in terms of what you might do, but I'm not going to get into it. But it's a good question.
What are your thoughts on the rule, though, overall? Is it taking the kickoff away from the game?
Well, I mean, I don't think you should take the kickoff away, and I think they're trying to do some things to cut down on the number of injuries that have been in that. And, you know, it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what people try to do. But I guarantee you, you'll see some people fair catching the ball in the field of play inside on the 10-yard line, because you can start the ball at the 25. So I think that's one thing that you will see, and it'll be interesting to see how many people will try to pooch it and different things along those lines. So I do think you'll probably see maybe less returns this year than in other years.
Randy, how will you, in the broadest sense, define success for the 2018 team?
I'll tell you that at the end of the year. You know, you know, my whole thing is all I want to do is get better each and every game. And if we get better each and every game and improve each and every practice, each and every game, you know, we'll see what happens where we are with wins and losses at the end of the season. You know, that's why you play the games. To sit here to say success is going to be this year, you know, to me, it's one of those things where, you know, yeah, you want to win every game. But for us, what I want to do is get better each and every game. And if we do that, then, and we do things the right way, our success will be defined and we'll meet what we want to meet. But again, until we play the games and all those sort of things, to put a number on things and all that, I don't think that's the right thing to do, you know, for me. But if we do the things necessary and keep improving and getting better, at the end of the year, we'll have the success that we want to have.
Normally when you play true freshmen, it's more likely you're playing further away from the ball. But obviously, you know, Travis and those guys. How often have you had true freshmen who are ready to play in the trenches right away? Seemingly rare in your UConn career, anyways. I
don't know. I mean, I think it's a unique situation. I don't know if I ever had this many freshmen, you know, that are in the mix to play. But again, that you hope that within your program that doesn't happen, where they have to play because of necessity, because of where you are with your depth and everything else. You know, they should have to play because they're ready to play and everything else. You know, and I think that new rule with 4 games, you know, then that way you can get some guys in when you need to plug them in due to injury. And I think what you'll see, a lot of people will start to do that as the season goes on and towards the end of the season to get them that experience to get in the game rather than, say, in the first, you know, half of the season. All right. All right.